Hi, it's Rizzle Kicks.
And we are great company.
What?
Oh my
I've got bones to pick with you, man.
What is it, man?
You nearly made me fat.
Yeah.
brother. On my life, yeah. So
Don't worry about it, man.
Jordan knows
Don't worry about it.
I like sweets, yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
like
mentioned it earlier.
I'm like Friday, Saturday night, like treat vibe, yeah. Brother, I bought a candy kittens in the morning once, and that's when I knew I had to never eat them ever again.
That's when the problem sets in, man.
I've not eaten them since then.
Well, you're going to get a whole bunch today, so I can't wait. I really appreciate
I
it.
take a box home.
Yeah, you can take more than a box. I want to take it back, okay, because I want to talk about the music, you guys getting back together, but I want to draw it way back to the beginning. And what I really want to do is get your individual stories as well. So, Harley, I'm going to start with you. You grew up in Brighton, right?
Well, grew up in London, then moved to Brighton for like secondary school, yeah. Which was kind of like, I only realised the impact that had on me when I grew into an adult. Like, so bear in mind, like I grew up in like North London, Wood Green, kind of like everyone I knew, all my friends were kind of like, you know, black, Muslim, whatever, like and then I moved to Brighton when I was like 11 or 12, and I was like, probably same situation to Jordan, one of 3 black kids in the entire school. And it was really strange because like racism was just like normal. I know I'm getting deep.
No,
quick,
this
but
is
like,
great, man. I
but
want you guys to hit this.
It was like, it was so normalized that I kind of became part of it myself and was like, oh yeah, that was funny, that like racist joke you just told. And but I got so acclimatized to it that it wasn't until I moved back to London when I was like 17, 18 that I realized how insane that jump was, going from, you know, a place with such like different energy, different vibes, different everything, to like such a like kind of closed-minded one race. It was and I think it played a big part on like my feelings as an adult, my feelings towards my color, my race, my heritage.
But explain that, John. Did you have the same thing?
Yeah, Brighton. Brighton's was open-minded in some senses, and just I'm not. Some places would have been closed-minded, but I think just naturally when you're in a space where you are literally the minority or whatever, because like I say, in London, the beauty of London is you have this like cauldron of culture that you are, you know, rubbing shoulders with, and you're able to grow with these people and understand, you know, like when I was at school in Neasden, in primary school, there were loads of Hindus in my school, and I actually just developed this real fascination with Hinduism because I thought the gods were really cool and the stories were amazing. And, you know, so that's the kind of insight that would be, in my mind, that's the benefit of diversity. In Brighton, there was just less diversity. So if you're wanting to fit in, I was wanting to fit in, some of the sacrifices of maybe self-worth to assimilate are quite sad to look back on. Do you know what I mean? So if my being there is someone's only experience of like being around blackness, then they'll try things, as teenagers will do, say things, act in particular ways to just see where the boundary is. Yeah. Especially when we played football. I remember I played football and we would play like neighboring villages and towns and shit, and they were wild.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I mean, it got even more wild when I started playing cricket. You'd be surprised how few. Like,
I'm not surprised about cricket being racist.
But there was like surprisingly small amount of like Asian community down that way, because cricket's like huge in the Asian community. But it was kind of a crazy experience that I don't really not appreciate, but understand fully until now, into my old. And that's why with my children, so my son especially, who's 6, he's a tiny bit confused about his race because my partner's white, and so he's you could tell he's mixed race, but he's very light skinned, and so he's baffed about like what he is, what color he is, what race he is. Yeah, he's really confused because like me and my dad aren't like super tight, like so he doesn't see him very often, so he doesn't have that side of his family to kind of like look at and understand. And so, but that's why a big part of me wants to raise them in London, as sometimes I have fears of raising my children in London, but I want them to, you know, experience everything, understand everything, and I think that's a big part of why I wouldn't want to move out of this city.
How aware of
I
it?
would. Fuck London.
Yeah.
How aware of it at the time were you guys? Because I think, Harley, as you said, you know, people were making racist jokes and you were just joining along with it, and you said you don't really realize the impact of it. How aware of it were you at the time that what people were saying was wrong?
Do you know what? It was only within my friendship group, and you know, like as we've gotten older, like the ones who are like more like into that have like profusely apologized and been like, you know, I was young, and but with them, I kind of like it was nothing. Didn't understand any of it. It was just like part of the culture of being a teenager in Brighton. But it was odd because if it was someone I didn't know, it was like chaos and I would get super angry and I would fight and and weirdly my friends would fight for me despite the fact that they would, you know, also be kind of part of it. But so, you know, I kind of like was quite, at times, Jordan's seen it. I used to get really fucking angry.
Really?
Yeah. To the point when it doesn't happen as that much anymore. But I like see red. Like if I feel a level of like disrespect, nothing else really comes into my. I just see red and I get very, very, very angry very quickly. And that often happened when I was a kid, which obviously didn't help like my labeling as like a angry black kid, all that kind of thing. That just like kind of fed into it a lot more. And I don't think, you know, I love my mum and we've gone through some rough patches. We're good now, but like she also didn't understand that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
why would you?
Would often, you know, wouldn't understand why I was getting so cross and why I hated living where I lived at the time. And I didn't really understand, so I couldn't really verbalize it properly. But it's small things, you know, like even I had like big afro hair. I always saw my afro as kind of like a sign of like who I was in a sense, because I see kids now in London and their hair is like so well groomed, it's like so well oiled, so well kept, and like my hair was just like a mess. You know, it was all over the place, and like because my mum just didn't know what to do with it, and that for me, I think back and I'm like, I wish I was like proud to have that hair, but back in the day it was just so messy, knotty, to the point where mum would just shave it, you know, and even that, like, and now I can't fucking grow hair when I really want to have hair.
My hair's
you got to give me your guy, by the way.
Yeah, well, the one that did the plugs for me. All right. But it's confusing, I think, as teenagers. It's like a really confusing time. And then you had these anger issues, and then John, you got diagnosed with ADHD when you were 15, and that, man, is confusing because, you know, I can even see it. I
have ADHD.
Yeah, some form, but.
The form.
Yeah, forgive me for trying to diagnose it, but you have the more fidgetiness, and we can see it here, right? So and it shows, or when I've been with you, you find it hard to sit still, and so, you know, especially in a conversation like this, I can tell I'm the same. It's like you know, you can get distracted. So how, as a teenager, that's hard.
Yeah. I didn't like school. I didn't get along with school. But in terms of like understanding, you know, my place in Brighton, I am an only child. I think so. Well, for most of my life, I've been an only child. And
let's go deep as well, guys.
Well, no, it's just.
I mean, this is deeper than I've
This is the deepest Harley's ever fucking gone, mate. I'm hearing shit I didn't even know.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So it was. But I was like, I was completely delusional as a teenager, and I was seemingly completely. I'd been embarrassed and rejected so often that in my school life, like I was bullied when I was at school in primary school, and then in secondary school, I kind of wasn't bullied, but I was definitely odd because I didn't understand how that friendship really worked. I didn't understand why people were doing nothing together. Like I had this productive mindset when I was a teenager. So I really just kind of, I didn't think I needed anything other than my own time and space in order to push me and my mum out of the space that we were living in. So when I got diagnosed with ADHD at 15, I actually didn't really care. And when I had the exam, I hated exams. I missed all my targets at school. I was considered an A-star student and I didn't get a single A. I don't think I just didn't. And I wasn't stressed about it. I was just like, I didn't think I needed it to go where I wanted to go. So
really?
No, not at all. I was stressed at the time because obviously, like, I got like an unmarkable, I think, in one of the exams. I got an E in art because I threw in my work at the teacher. And,
that's always a good one.
But it was, it wasn't like an aggressive, violent thing. It wasn't at the teacher. It was like towards the teacher, in a safe,
in an artistic way.
Distance.
It was in an artistic way. Yeah. Wait, this is art. What are you talking about?
Well, he just like he mugged me off. Anyway, I won't get into it, but But, you know, even lessons I really enjoyed, the coursework side of it, I'd nail. It's just like the exam, an hour to prove what I've learned over 2 years. It just fundamentally doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it makes sense in many different spaces.
When did you know you had like some kind of?
I don't think you've not been diagnosed.
I'm being diagnosed at the moment. I had it as a kid. I got diagnosed, but I mean, it was like a weird thing at school. They said, oh, it was ADD that they said. But then, dude, as a kid, I couldn't sit still. I had tantrums. Unless I was highly focused on like sport or something like that was my outlet, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of really helped me. But I think what's interesting is also my family life was a bit chaotic. You know, divorce, sent to boarding school, it was all like a lot going on.
How long were you at boarding school?
I went to boarding school at 8.
For how long?
8 years old.
How many years?
10 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Bro, what the fuck?
Where did you grow up?
Grew up near Oxford and then moved to London when my parents got divorced around 7. Went to boarding school.
How often do you see your family when you're in boarding school?
Every 3 weeks for a weekend.
That's insane. As a child that young, that's blowing my mind.
So what's interesting for me is...
Do you think that's had an effect on anything as you've gotten older?
Yeah, huge effect. To the point where... suppressing emotions.
Really?
I just, wanting to please, not being able to, being embarrassed about saying anything because you're in a dormitory of 12 kids and if you cry, you're the weak one.
Really?
So
Did that hierarchical thing just happen straight up?
Straight away.
Like there's
Yeah, straight away. And it's a food chain straight away. You go in there and you straight away, 8 years old, notice who the lions are. And
was it full of people who'd already been there? Or is it like all you?
It's the same year. So you go in at 8, they're older years.
Right.
And the older years is even more hierarchical, as you can imagine.
Really?
So, yeah, it's wild. And so, but so I always look at, I always look at family life. And Harley, you mentioned that you didn't have a relationship with your dad. And John, you mentioned that your mum, what was your relationships like with your parents growing up?
My mum and dad have always been mates. I don't really have any memories of them together, but my mum's like very creatively supportive of me. Like she she encouraged creative expression and celebrated it. And so I really had a belief in my own creativity as a child. And then later on, I had to kind of reckon with perhaps how my mum treated herself, because she's a fighter, but she, it's tough being in that space. And also we live in a world and a system where if you're not on top of the capitalist expectations of society, it fucking crushes you, So all my early memories and experiences are seeing people, on the dole, on estates, struggling to keep their head above water and being punished at every turn. And I that just doesn't make sense to me. And to be fair, I think the most represented demographic of ADHD are boys in single parent, low income households. So there's definitely I'm a firm believer in Gabor Mate's approach to the outlook on ADHD, in that you're born with a propensity, because I think my mum and dad do.
Explain that. What do you mean?
Like my mum and dad are definitely, I guess, being that they're creative and whatever else, the way they approach life and organize and don't organize, and my dad's quite clumsy and all these kind of things, there'll be some kind of, obviously when they're growing up, they don't have the same analysis and given these titles. So that'll be in my wiring, being that I'm half my mum and half my dad, but it's the environment that I'm born into. The Gabor Mate says the environment can basically like trigger those. The argument is like, I could have an opportunity if I'm to have a child in the future, I could have an opportunity for my child to maybe not take on so many of my symptoms if they're encouraged to settle a little bit more in their environment, or they're given everything they need in order to feel more secure. I mean, you just had Alain de Botton on. You don't need me for this.
No, man, but
like,
this is. But you speak from the heart.
Yeah,
but
but he's one of the guys I listen to about this stuff because it is. I think it's nature and nurture, basically. That's what I mean. And
that's what I'm sort of getting at. And Harley, what about you? What was your relationship like with your parents?
Again, don't have a memory of them being ever together. My relationship with my dad is more of like an interesting one, because he's like a really good man. Like he's like a good man, but he's moved over here from Nigeria when he was like pretty young, and then his parents wanted him back, so he got sent back. He was back and forth between here and Nigeria for a long time. and then ended up being fostered by a lovely woman called Jocelyn. But he is crazy to me because like he hates his blackness like beyond I've ever experienced. So like obviously he experienced bullying to like another level, right? Growing like in the 70s in London as a full like Nigerian man, like it was bad for him. But like to the point now where, so for example, my daughter's called Awala, which is like a Nigerian name. But she's even more fair skinned than my son. She could probably pass as a white girl. But my dad was like, you shouldn't have called her Awala because now people are going to know that she's African. And to me, I was like, that's really sad. I understand like what has happened to you, and you know, it's not completely a different world, but it is to a degree. And for me, my blackness, I want to celebrate and like encourage all my kids, and like, you know, if they want to identify as whatever they want to identify, that's fine. But like, I want them to at least like have an understanding of it. Whereas I never had that understanding because me and my dad don't have that kind of relationship. And even if we did, he would have like suppressed it and squashed it anyway because of his hatred towards his own race and skin color. And yeah, he's a good man, but like he didn't really have an understanding of how to be a dad because he never had a dad, you know. And that's something I've only begun to understand since becoming a dad, is that if you don't have that kind of person to learn from when you're super young, like it's tough. And like, I wouldn't say I'm the best parent in the world, but I always grew up with the mentalities. I really want to be a fucking good dad because I want to prove that you don't have to have like a super present father figure to actually be a great father. And I think I've somewhat achieved that. But he's a good person. Like he's not like a bad like runaway dad who's like, you know, he's the type of person who like will never text you, never in a million years will ask you if you want to like hang out or do anything. But if you say to him like, do you want to cancel all of your plans like in the next 4 hours and like go and do something with me and the kids, he'll be like, just give me time and place. You know, I think he's a little bit autistic.
Yeah,
like, I just don't think he fully again understands like pretty normal social cues and understand. I don't know. Again, I'm self-diagnosing.
No, but I get it. But I mean, what's amazing, right, is that I'm obsessed with sort of male role models and things like that, and I think they're so important in life. And then, you know, John, you found it hard to find male role models, right, in life, isn't that right? And yeah, and what I find interesting, right, is that you guys then meet each other, and it feels like you suddenly found that sort of role model in each other.
Definitely not.
But how did you guys?
Do you not think?
What, we each other's role models?
No, I don't think of role models maybe the correct word. But
yeah,
like,
but you found a brotherly love with each other that you haven't had before. And so you could connect maybe with a male in your life. You're like, oh my God, we like the same thing. We like music. Oh my God, this is great. Let's do
but
this.
House has a brother.
yeah, but I don't, it's different. He's like 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, true.
You guys find each other in Brighton, you connect, you start creating this music, you put it on YouTube, you're found on YouTube. You know, Island Records, isn't it? That say, right, we want to sign you guys. For any, like, especially at that time,
it was
the sky's the limit.
It was organic, for sure. That's what it felt like compared to this day and age, you know.
We got like, you know, three offers, and we went with a guy called Nick, he had signed Adele and Dizzy Rascal, so we were like, yeah, he sounds good. And then another guy offered us an iPad, and we thought that was a bit dodgy, so we just so that wasn't the only deal, like as well as money. It wasn't just here's an iPad. At the time, bro, iPads were wild. This is 2010. iPhones came out in 2007, so that was like revolutionary to have like a. But yeah, it was. But again, like I really emphasize, I was truly delusional as a teenager, so I didn't even think it was weird. I was like, oh yeah, we get signed, sure, and then I reckon we'll probably just like be high in the charts.
But isn't that the magic of being a teenager, being young as well, right? There's no experience. There's always that poem which I love, which is about innocence and experience, how experience kills innocence. Yeah. And actually, we kind of want to say innocent forever because then we're not learned. We don't learn these things.
Yeah, but isn't innocent there just being used as a replacement for ignorance?
Yeah, possibly.
Because like the whole, you get a beautiful window where you can you can excuse idiocy, and like you can be overconfident and be like, you know, you can be overconfident and stupid, but it's excusable based off of age. But the dream is to be so experienced that the confidence comes from an informed understanding of what you can do in the world around you. That's the kind of dream, you know. But I do think, yes, the innocence and the naivety and the overconfidence based off of like what is the world, brilliant and super fun. But for me personally, I can't speak for Harley, one of the hardest things when we put Rizzle Kicks on ice and then we're trying to grow up and be more grounded and establish, you know, healthier roots, one of the biggest complexes I had to overcome was the reality that not everything I try first time is going to be successful. That was wild.
Explain that more.
Well, it is unusual to see a video on YouTube from a record label's perspective, even go, all right, these boys are good. You know what I mean? We've got like appeal. It's you know, there weren't many other acts similar to us in that space. And then we put out one song and it went to number 8 within a month and stayed there for like almost 2-3 months. Right. And then another song comes in, it's top 10, and another song comes in, it's number 2. And then our album, like that first try, that's not usual. And for us, not only did it create a space where I didn't even acknowledge that we'd achieved all of our dreams within 1 year, but then it was like, right, where's the second album? Do you know what I mean? And then we are now having to live with the expectation of something where we've overachieved essentially.
So,
you know?
so what you're saying?
We haven't overachieved. The album is sick. Thank you.
No, and the album is sick.
Both albums, I want to say.
But what you're saying is that having that immediate success is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I would say that.
So then what's the counter to that then? Like if you because all you want, you're going into this industry and all you want is success.
Nah, it's climb, not climax. That's what I say.
Like, Harley, were you the same? Did you have the same sort of mentality? Because I know what you're saying, John. I agree with you. You're just like, you're not used to failure. So then when failure hits you, it hits you like a bullet.
What's wild is that like, so our first album, Stereotypical, it's double platinum now, I think, which is insane.
What does that mean for the listeners?
Like it's over 600,000 records, and in a time, you know, that's a lot.
No one has platinum albums anymore, really, unless you're like a super, you know.
Yeah. It's a lot of records basically, but then
physical as well. But
yeah, so and then on our second album, which, you know, I'm super proud of that album.
Love that album.
It went gold. Which
is amazing,
which is incredible, but it's only 100,000. I think it's done like over 200,000 now, but like at the time over 100,000. But because that wasn't as good as our first album, it was not seen as like a failure, but like
it is in a business context. You run a business
to you know, if it's not going up, then technically
growth, bro.
It's a failure. But like, if for example the first time round we had sold 50,000, the label would be like, wow, that's great for new artists. And then you on the second one you set to do 150,000, they go, wow, it's growing. But because we sold fucking 600,000 on the first try and then only 100,000 on the second try, your view of what success gets so skewed to the point where you just then are like lost a little.
You guys are young. You think you're cool. There's huge success straight away. Unfortunately, that is typically a recipe for disaster. In terms of we can get into it, right? There's drugs. There's alcohol.
We probably had a very similar-ish experience.
Yeah,
to a degree.
But for you guys, you're young. You're successful. You're good looking. How do you not drift into that dark side of life?
Can I say?
Yeah.
I didn't think I was cool. I definitely enjoyed the music that we made, and I understood that we were good at it. Like I thought my delusion was like, I know I'm good at writing lyrics. And people would actively be like, you're shit, like your music's awful. I remember I tried to sing on a song when I was younger and somebody like clipped it up and just sent it around everyone on MSN, and everyone was just sending me, just like laughing at me, saying I was all shit.
So
But I'm saying that was normal to me. So I didn't think like, oh, everyone's gonna think I'm cool. I was like, I'm gonna show these cool kids what hard work means And actually, my drive and ambition was spurred on. Again, this is another thing I'm now dealing with as a response. I'm now having to motivate myself from a place of harmony, not having to prove people wrong. And I found that hard. That's something I still struggle with, you know?
Yeah, because I think, you know, what I was getting is that you guys had sort of these two journeys where, John, and you've been vocal about it, I want to talk about it, about drugs and alcohol and that space. And I admire you for being open about it, right? But Harley, what a lot of people may not know is the anxiety attacks that you had.
Yeah.
You, and I remember speaking to you, Jordan, about this years ago, and you probably won't remember. You were on stage, you had a panic attack, and that was like a light switch for you.
That was
wasn't
it, yeah.
What happened? Tell me about it.
In like kind of like a physical sense, it was just I'd started like doing this other music project, and
Which is amazing, by the way.
Thank you. And I had a show, and look, I don't know, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about it, but I don't want to like put confirmation on that in terms of why it happened. But a big part of it, because as you can, you know, see in our dynamic, Jordan's very upfront. He's like very good at talking to people. He's like, you know, probably the best conversationalist I've ever met. And but that also translated to being on stage. So like, I kind of got used to being able to like go on stage, Jordan like ramping up the crowd, like doing this, and then I'd be able to just like chime in with a little sign, whatever, and it was cool. And I always felt comfortable. But like, even if like Jordan like went off stage to like change his t-shirt, whatever, I'd be on stage like, I wouldn't feel nervous. I don't know what to say. And I think, you know, doing that thing on my own without Jay was like, I felt all of a sudden like really exposed. And also a lot of the music that we wrote, especially on our first album, was fun, it was happy, it was jolly, it was about kind of random shit you do as teenagers, But this music I was making was heartbreak. A lot of heartbreak stuff, a lot of love songs. And I used to be a very emotionally shut off person, like a stone, like proper, like stoic man, no emotion type thing. And all of a sudden I'm in a room of people singing about how I got my heart broken. And all of a sudden it's just like this wave of like, oh my God, I can't believe you're exposing yourself like this, like hit me. And then, yeah, so from that, like, you know, I had a panic attack, Jordan was there, ambulance was there. I thought I was having a fucking heart attack, all this shit. And then we had a tour, had to cancel that because I just couldn't visualize doing that, which was, you know, I still feel fucking awful about that. But at the time I had to take care of myself. But that anxiety spilled into everything, every part of my life. You know, I couldn't get on the tube. I couldn't even like have the idea of doing this, like, you know, I've said this before, but the idea of like sitting opposite you and like having a chat in a room of like 10 people, whatever. If this was, 4 or 5 years ago, I would have found any excuse not to be here. I would have, you know, crumbled. I would have been in bed for days. I would have, you know, been throwing up. I would have had anxiety. It was like, and this is so like cash and like nice and like relaxing and lovely. But like the idea of it just like really, I hated it. And it kind of caused me to like spiral into quite a deep depression, because the thing I love doing, being a performer, being an artist, being a person who likes being around other creative people, was like zapped away from me, taken away from me. And I was kind of left with like this idea of who I used to be, and like that longing to be that person again, but with the physical incapability of doing so. And it really sent me into like a fucking dark place, man. And that was a big part of why we took a step back and just said, look, we need to just work on ourselves. And that's the best thing we could have done. Like I could have powered through, and could have like, because I think a lot of people do, because they're so addicted to kind of like that lifestyle and that celebrity culture and that, like, you know, onslaught of like people appreciating you, that they can't take themselves out of it. But I think, you know, we were strong enough to kind of remove ourselves. And, you know, I had a family. I've got an amazing partner who's like super supportive, and I had good people around me, great friends. My children are amazing. And just living in that existence of just like wholesomeness and harmony was really important to be able to now I've like grown, and like sport, like you mentioned earlier, like I use sport as that's a big thing for me. Like I need that shit. Now I'm a person that, don't get me wrong, like there's going to be moments during this process where I might have a little fumble or have a little like moment where I'm like, "Oh, that's a big deal. Don't know how I feel about that." But I now have the tools and the understanding of myself to take that on. And you know, Jordan's always been like a huge supporter of like since I started feeling that in that way. And it was I never felt a pressure to be like, let's get back on this wheel. Like, well, the reason why we started making music again was like super organic. We just, you know, we loved making music together, and that was where it all stemmed from. And it started extremely low pressure, low key. We just got in the studio, did some bits, and it was great. It was really great. And that also gave me a lot of confidence. But, you know, it's the past like 7-8 years is the early part of it was fucking horrible. But the past like 4 years has been a lovely, beautiful journey. And that wouldn't have happened if I'd kept myself in that space, you know.
Harley, man, well said, dude. Honestly, I think I really appreciate you for sharing that, because do you know what the worst thing is when the joy that you have turns into torture. And when the worst thing, which I'm sure, Jordan, you've experienced as well, I know I have, is when you feel like your brain is failing you. And it's not your physical body, it's something that you can't control, and you can't start doing the thing that you still love because something has happened within you that you can't see.
So did you have similar?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I had same panic attack, but I was too addicted to the fame. Right. So I didn't stop. I just drank. Forgive me for digging deep. I just think, look, I think we're 3 guys sitting here and being vulnerable, and I just think that's amazing. You know, how dark did it get for you?
Pretty bad, yeah. Like I always knew I had like some kind of OCD, but my OCD got really bad. And I think for what people surface level OCD, it's like, oh, I got to turn that light off. I got to, you know, got to be super tidy, like da da da. But OCD, which I've learned through lots of therapy, is actually when it gets more intense and more difficult to deal with, is when your brain attaches itself to certain thoughts. So, for example, say you're in the market for a new car and you want to buy a Mini, right? You're gonna see a Mini. You're going to notice minis on the street now every time you see a Mini, because it's like in your mind. OCD is the same thing. So you'll have like a thought, and because your brain has attached some kind of importance to that thought, you can't let go of that thought. And I've had some like fucking horrible ones, which now I'm like, you know, okay with. But like even like stuff with my children, like when I thought it's horrible, it's most darkest, most awful stuff that about my family, and like what it just got really, really difficult to deal with. And you think like, this is me, this is who I am, I'm this person who has these horrible dark thoughts. And then I spoke to this therapist for a long time, and she was like, how do those dark thoughts make you feel? Like, do they make you feel? And I was like, I'm terrified of them. And she was like, people who have experienced dark thoughts like that, and are those people feel vindicated by those thoughts and enjoy them, you know? And I was like, I'm so terrified of these. And she was like, that's who you are. You're a person who is so terrified of like being this horrible person that your brain is attached some weird importance to it to make sure you don't do that. And once I kind of understood that about OCD, it got so much easier to cope with. And you know, I've now, I think, got the good parts of OCD where I am a fucking clean freak.
He's so clean.
And like, and you know, I'm very like, you know, on the school run in the morning, my son has to leave at this time, and he's never late. He's never been late for school. Like, don't get me wrong. But like, like when I say it got bad, it got really, really, really bad. I never like, you know,
I think it was like kind of paralysis, I think.
Your thought process has become so dark that you don't want to put yourself anywhere because the fear of anything that your thoughts are going to become true, that you're just like, I need to remove myself from anything.
That's exactly.
And I totally understand. And
that's
that happens to, dude, that happens to so many people.
I know, I've learned that now. When I've been open about like some of the darker thoughts I've had to my friends and to my family, they're like, wait, is that real? Because like I've had that like so many times, like, and I've been so worried at this person. I'm like, no, you're good.
You're good.
Don't worry. Like you might be going through a tough time at the moment, but like you're good.
Jordan, seeing a friend in that space, not even just a friend, you know, your teammate, your brother, your business partner, your artist together. That's tough, right?
Yeah, listen, it was, we were saying just the other day that around that time, actually, I was so based off on productivity. Like my issues would come later. I was kind of living from the head up, I'd say. I was in this kind of suspended. Our response to intense anxiety differed in that it would cause Harley to freeze. And with me, I would, fight, flight or freeze? I guess I'd fight, in some sense. I would embody the anxiety and just run. Like one of the first things my therapist said to me, which is in my book, is, no, I'm joking. One of the first things my therapist said to me. But
you should read it. I want to get the book. The book is called as well.
Avoidance, Drugs, Heartbreak and Dogs. Yeah, I'll sort you out. So like, but she said.
But it's ADHD, right?
Yeah. Anxiety is my petrol. That's one of the things she said. So she asked me, do you want to get into this because you're going to struggle maybe to motivate yourself once we do the work? And I did, but we did the work and now it's coming from a healthier place. But I was so proactive that when Harley was going through these troubles, I was like, all right, he doesn't get it, I don't get it. Let's go on a journey together to discover what it is that's going on with Harley. And in that process of that journey, I then realized that I also had all these fucking issues. And I was like, well, this journey sucks.
I was sweet before this journey.
But you know, I think ultimately, aside of my own naivety and you know, again, we were both in a space where the conversation around mental health was in its own early-ish years. So we're literally Googling things together, trying to understand.
It's a scary time, that, because there's no knowledge as well.
Yeah, we were trying to understand, like, how does this get past it? I'm literally sat in his house looking through things, going, do you feel this? Do you feel this? And he's going, yeah, no, yeah. And then we were recording it, all this kind of stuff.
Wow. You're just trying to guess. You're trying to navigate your way through it.
Well, Harley eventually got into therapy, and you know, then I Am Whole came off of after this. This was like a year after. Yeah, like Harley said, the most, I guess, important choice that was made was a 100% mutual agreement that our own well-being, personal harmony was way more important than, you know, keeping up with the other, you know, staying in this rat race and trying to compete with all the other artists around us. I just didn't. It's not. I just don't
Huge
think
respect, guys.
It's more. You know what I mean? You can't put what does it mean if we went and worked our asses off in spite of being fucked and then like doing well? Then you're still. The emotional world doesn't give a fuck about material world. It doesn't matter if you've got a new car, if you feel like a dickhead. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
But what does your management say?
Doesn't matter.
Didn't matter. I mean, no,
it didn't matter. It was just what they you know, our manager, he didn't. Sorry, just for context, he didn't like try and make us. You know, there were people around us who would encourage us. Of course, the booking agent was devastated. We cancelled the tour, and you know, our manager would try and. Actually, to be honest, he didn't at all. I think he was actually just one thing. If anything, he could have tried a bit harder, actually, to get us some music. He was actually really chill.
To be fair to him,
he was like, yeah, fuck it.
to be fair to him, he was the one who he introduced me to therapists. He was very helpful in that space.
Yeah, but it was also new, man. It was really new.
But it's amazing because Simone Biles was the same thing, height of the game, and then just going, you know what? I need to look after myself, and it's rare. And the flip side of that is you see awful things like Avicii, and do you know what I mean? And
heartbreaking.
So if for you, if you never gave when did you heal? Like when did you give your chance?
Well, when I met my wife.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, and she showed love, but not the sort of validation love that I needed. So I thought I needed to be stroked all the time, and you know, that's not healthy. Like, she just did it in a great way.
So she naturally knew not to caretake. She just
yeah, she just was, yeah.
Wow. So she was like secure in herself, truly.
So secure, man.
That's a gift, bro.
It's an insane gift. She had so much love as a kid that she didn't understand what not having love was. She was just like, yeah, so...
That's cool.
I didn't know
which
those
is
people
amazing.
existed, bro.
Nor did I, buddy.
That's wild, especially
They're
when
out
it's...
there.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
God damn.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah,
real,
yeah.
I've heard about this in books.
Yeah. Fairy tales,
wild.
man. It's out there.
Did you tell Alain about this? 'Cause-
I tried to. I think I did. Yeah,
yeah,
Jemima.
wow. Just give him some hope.
But John, you have been open about your issues with drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
and that got pretty bad, didn't it? At some
Yeah,
point, like that.
The best way to encapsulate like the state we'd got to is actually in and around Harley's panic attack. If you don't mind me repeating the story that my dad said the other day that I put on the album.
Okay,
Oh, not
yeah.
album. Wait, you're going to help me out? Anyway. Is that like is so Harley was on the phone to me when he had this panic attack. So he had basically anyway. The point is he had a
Yeah,
panic
never
attack.
explain it. I like this.
Well, he had the panic attack. It was the first time I think he had a full-blown panic attack. He'd obviously had real bad anxiety, stage anxiety. He had the nausea, but this was like seriously scary for me and him because I'm hearing him hyperventilate on the phone. He just about passed the phone to the driver, and then I just asked the driver where he was, and then but the funny thing was I had been out all night, so I hadn't slept in like 36 hours. I'd just done the worst DJ set of all time in a Timberland store.
I came,
Yeah. I can't even remember that he came. And it was like fucking dreadful. I was like just trying to get a bit of extra money, probably for drugs. And then he's had this panic attack. I've turned up like his wild, I've jumped out of the car like, Harley, what do you want? Do you want some Tang Fastics? So I think, sorry, Candy Kittens was around there.
I've got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah, don't. But then I've like run off to get him these sweets, just a little sugar surge at the time, because obviously he's, just a comfort food for him at the time. And then I didn't realise that at the Timberland show, I'd lost my wallet. I didn't even realise. So I've run up into Tesco's, grabbed some sweets and been like, I can't pay for this. And they're like, okay. So now I've ran back to everyone there, including a paramedic, being like, has anyone got a $5? Do you know what I mean? And it was like that.
That chaos.
Yeah, it sums up kind of where we were both at. And yeah, for me, it was bizarrely, I actually probably did with my therapist in the second half of my 20s. We untangled where the anxiety ended and the ADHD began, because I think I conflated the two quite heavily. And if I think back actually to the beginning of the rise, I too was experiencing quite overwhelming forms of anxiety, but I was introduced to cocaine so like efficiently that and that cocaine ended up being a medication. It's an amphetamine. Do you know what I mean? It was probably cut with a similar chemical compound to what I'm now prescribed anyway.
It quieted your thoughts.
Yeah. So and I remember that first. I used to go into these environments where we'd meet people I'd seen on telly, or even weirder, footballers I'd controlled on the computer on the PlayStation. And I would be so panicked about how I would appear to them, or like how to say hello, how to say goodbye. I would overthink all of this. I was overthinking. And then this upper would just take that away. So I was just then surfing this wave of living up here, thinking, creating like being productive. And it was this mania that sailed me into my second half of my 20s. But I wasn't really able to connect with my body to people. And I've only found that in the later part of my 20s, actually really up until turning 30, where now the friendships I have, the relationships I'm in, they are based around a heartfelt connection. My heart is open. But for a long time, I couldn't even feel my toes. And I only realized that when I could feel them, which was literally at like 28. Wow. I'd just been on this wave, so yeah, it was super fun, super hedonistic, irresponsible and misguided, and I didn't have an understanding of my own energy. I was certainly searching for validation externally, 100%. Didn't have my forwardness and social mobility was like definitely informed by like quite cripplingly low self-esteem, but it's hard to identify that because I'm the fucking, you know, da 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 ba ba ba, and then some people might even think I'm good looking, and I'd be like, all right, but did I really believe it in myself? I can say, I think from my own introspection, no. And actually, since I did start to believe that in myself, that my beauty was from a deeper place than how people who I didn't even respect perceived me, now suddenly my life is better.
Love that, man. Well said, dude.
That was well said.
That was well said, man. I like that.
Good, yeah.
And then
I did loads of drugs though.
yeah. Harley, you're saying you have your family, you have your partner.
Yeah.
You know, that's amazing. And Jordan, you have your partner who's also a superstar.
Yeah, massively.
Massively, dude. And you mentioned that she's the only person that you've really connected really properly on the level that you are.
Unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, that's the most open my heart's been. I had a real understanding of what I wanted from love, which I didn't know for a long time. And she's more than capable of providing that. Yeah. And I literally, dude, in lockdown, I literally wrote a list of what I was looking for, what I wanted. I tried to manifest this shit. I don't know if you're into manifesting or whatever. I take everything with a pinch of salt, but dude, I could show you this fucking list. It's Jade, you know what I mean? And and she just popped up. Yeah, man. Seriously, like, listen, when I met Jade, yeah, like I hadn't been out of my past relationship for that long. So when I was chatting to her, it was an ego-driven thing. I've always talked about how much I love Little Mix. I couldn't believe that like we had a mutual friend, me and Jade. And so when I'm chatting to her, I was like, boys, I'm chatting to one of Little Mix. And then like a couple of weeks went past, and I'm there going like, damn, she's like, she's funny, she's interesting.
Actually like her.
And obviously I hadn't met her at this point. This was, you know, because it was the end of lockdown. But then, you know, I was like, fuck. I remember thinking like, I think I need to meet her because we're talking a lot actually. And I don't want to get into like a thing where, you know, I was thinking I'd be this kind of available, and then I met her and I was just like, I'm not going to waste any time here because, you know, well, what am I going to do? Like pretend this isn't a vibe for like a few months just for my own.
Do you believe in marriage?
Yeah, but I guess I believe in it existentially. Yeah. I don't know enough about it as an institution. I wasn't raised to believe in it being an important aspect of a relationship. But saying that, I've been to a lot of weddings recently, and I like the idea of people coming together to celebrate love conceptually is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And I love that part.
When did you get married?
Last year.
Did you do it like your own way a little bit?
I did it my way, not my wife's way, and that was a big disaster.
Really?
She really didn't like it. Yeah, she had a really tough time with anxiety leading up.
How have you done it with the names and that? Did you take your name?
We haven't.
Double barrel.
I think she's going to probably take my name, but that's because she wants to. But I wouldn't. I don't mind whatever she wants.
That's what I mean. Why I was hesitant about my immediate reaction is just because, again, a celebration of love and potential tax relief, brilliant, but. The religious, there's some religious.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Twist on it where I'm like, like me and Harley went to a wedding once where the father of the bride joked about like where his sheep were, because he was like, "That's part of the exchange. You've got my daughter. Where are my sheep?" Those are the original vows if you want to look into them. So the idea of like a father giving their daughter away, that kind of shit, I'm like, nah. I'm not asking for permission and shit. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, but I don't believe in that shit. Like I believe in just celebrating love.
Can you say for the listeners who Jade is?
She's actually Jade now, mononym, bro. That's that solo shit. Let's go.
Just straight up.
Jade.
But Jade was in the band Little Mix.
Yeah.
Big, huge, Little Mix, huge band, global success.
Yeah. Look, what can I say about it that I haven't already said about with Jade? I think for me, and I think Harley can definitely back this up, like, she's 100% a superstar, and that's brilliant. But those 2 weeks I'm talking about where I'm suddenly like, whoa, this is different, is she has this really grounded, unaffected spirit that you wouldn't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You wouldn't meet her and be
and realize that
she's
you wouldn't think she was like
this
one of the
big
biggest
superstar.
pop
Guys,
stars on the
it's the greatest thing in the world when you meet someone and the unexpected happens. And you go, what?
Yeah. It's a beautiful trait of hers, and also I fucking love how successful she is.
Good on you, man.
It's great.
It's the best.
I did an interview the other day, and sometimes I say some like you know, I can go off on tangents. And sometimes interviewers like specifically transcribe what I've said. And I kid you not, I read an interview the other day where someone said, like, asked me how I feel about Jade's success being that she's a woman. And I went, well, I know that some people find that intimidating, but I find it very hot and relaxing. And I was like,
like a sauna.
like a bath. I was like, did I say that? Going out with Jade is like being in a fucking bath. Hey, listen, I'm here for it.
Do you know what I find about you guys?
That's so
do you know what really stands out about you both, which is amazing, is the love and respect you have for each other. I think you see it in bands, you see it in TV shows, you see it in relationships, and we talk about the son of respect, right? And the fact that the success feels like you guys just had this level of respect for each other that even though, Jordan, you were maybe more of the hype man, you actually, you know, how you fell into the role of like quite liking being backstage. Like,
yin and yang, for sure.
But that's amazing, and that really shines through, guys. It's and this is why this new music coming. And I swear to God, I want people. When I swear to God, I'm not lying when I say this. I swear to you, but I can look in the eyes. I swear to God, I now go on the Rizzle Kicks TikTok.
Yeah.
To see you guys dancing.
So we're doing that shit at gunpoint, bro.
Man, it's so good. I don't know what about your rhythm or the vibe. Like, there's something within it.
I just think we're.
It's so good. I can't express more how good it is.
I definitely think we feel less pressure this time, just because, like I say, our values in life. Again, I can't speak on behalf of Harley, but just from seeing Harley's life choices, our values have shifted. You know, and we're very much. You know, Harley has had this experience of having 2 children and feeling that shift of priority of value, like a desire of wanting to give love constantly and provide and be there and be present, you know. So slightly less affected by the fact that we have to do 100 TikToks a day.
Yeah, that shit is wild.
Man, I like it, dude.
Do you like it?
It's good.
You're really fucking good at it.
I don't have any...
You're not nothing.
I'm on nothing, bro. So this shit is wild to me. When we have to turn up and she's like, we got to do this thing, so it's like a trend or whatever. I'm like, why?
Yeah, these trends are nuts, man.
You know,
they tried to make us do a video about a hippo the other day, bro. It's crazy.
I'm gonna ask you to do a TikTok after this, and I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait.
I mean, look, I don't like that. Look, I don't mind doing those content days. It just blows my mind. It just blows my mind.
You have to do it. I actually love TikTok, but I watch conspiracy videos.
The great thing about soulmates is they don't have to be lovers; they can be friends.
100%.
Man, and you guys, I think, personify that in a beautiful way. You
so.
really do.
100%. We got some funny ass videos of us when we were like 18 years old, man. Just like fucking filming ourselves being like absolute plonkers. It's great. It's really we'll use it once for the doc, you know, whatever.
Guys, honestly, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys coming on, and your music's going to be. I imagine you're thinking about a tour and things like.
Yeah, we've got some shows coming up.
Yeah, March
Grace
25.
and Grace's mum are going to be front row. I can.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's great. We'd love that.
Yeah, just come whenever. Just let us know.
Guys, everyone loves you, and the fact that you're back, for some reason, it's a real lift in like.
Inflation has actually dropped by 0.2%.
There we go. It's huge, man.
Yeah.
You guys, respect you guys. Just quickly, Jordan, you have got your book out.
Yeah.
And I know like your mind is incredible, and so I haven't read it yet. I haven't got a signed copy yet.
You can also listen to it. You know, a lot of people who struggle to read have been listening to it and
saying I struggle to read.
Do you struggle to read?
Yeah, I do.
I've actually, but
I think the way it's written will. As someone who's potentially got ADHD yourself, it will. Because for me, when I read it, I thought it was really I found it like sometimes a little bit jarring because it's because I'm someone who's like very calm, doesn't have ADHD, and it's written by someone who very clearly has ADHD.
I don't like commas, basically.
Okay, good.
So it's like full stop.
It's just like loads of little sentences, but you can't put it down. You can't like stop that. Do you know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, that's the end of the sentence. It's like 4 sentences in one sentence.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just like it's just grammatically incorrect, basically. But
it's avoidance, drugs, heartbreak, and dogs.
Yes, but the number one bit of feedback that we've seen, which is amazing, like across wherever people can give feedback, is that a lot of people I don't usually read, but I've read this, which I love. So
man, it's great. Yeah. And you know what? Your music as well is optimistic, and the world needs that.
The album is look, we definitely are bringing through like an energy that is reflective of something a bit more lifted. We talk about these values. We talk about the like nature, like we talk about like
Our biggest flex is how much water we drink.
yeah,
That's it.
that's a big flex. We talk about love a lot. We talk about love,
Which I think love
and
you know,
water.
I think for a lot of like people like men in this
should have been
industry,
an
and for younger men, there's not enough men who celebrate being in love with one person.
except to people who start podcasts with
They're wise, and you have to because you.
But you know, you see a lot of it. It's just like I've got this person, I've got that, and I think you know it feeds into this whole like I don't. But like I think more men need to celebrate how amazing it is to actually be in love.
yeah, connection.
Man, I believe, personal opinion is that being in love with one person is more magical than you can possibly have.
It's the best.
It's the best. Guys, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for doing this.
Big love.
We have 5 questions that
Great.
we normally end with a bit more, but we're going to do 5 because there's 2 of you. So be as honest and as quick as you want to. It's quick fire.
I mean,
But
you should encourage me to be quicker.
Okay.
Oh my god, yeah.
What saying or phrase always makes you smile or cheers you up? Harley.
I love you.
Oh, it's too wholesome, man.
But from my
Family,
yeah.
not from
like
someone standing across the road.
Yeah.
Dylan, what's yours?
And Jay calls me a dark. That's quite funny. That always cheers me up.
I like it. Jordan, what scares you most about yourself?
Fuck me. That was deep. I definitely have like a rooted kind of lack of self-worth, which I try and, you know, nurture. So I don't want to fall back into that.
Love that, man. Harley.
I don't know. I've got bad knees.
Good one. All right. I like how you went deep and then right now you're just like, hey. When was the last time you cried and why?
Brother, I cried and I never cry at this kind of thing. I'm actually not a massive crier, believe it or not.
You're not? Yeah, you are.
I go through like
Serious?
phases. I go for like
Being a
little
crier?
but like I'm
We're always talking about crying, man.
I love crying. I've nothing against that, but I it takes a lot for me to cry. But I've not been like in an anxious, depressive hole for a while.
No,
So
but that's not why you cry these days. You cry out.
I tell you what, I cried at the other day. Fucking, what's it called? Straight gut, queer eye for a fucking straight guy.
Really? It took you
Yeah,
down?
right. Is there a new series of that?
I don't know. I've never watched it. I've never watched it before. And my partner said, I think you'll like this show, because we got into watching like mad wholesome stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. Watched one episode. and
Unbelievable.
I was sobbing. I was weeping.
Wow.
Jordan, what about you?
Oh, watching Iron Claw. I was on the edge for a lot of the end part of the film. The second they show the real person,
Gone.
boss.
Unbelievable. It's a good movie. I only watched half of it. It was good.
Same thing happened with me with Hidden Figures. Same thing happened with Lion. Like, it's the second I see the real person.
Gone.
Like, once it was, I watched Lion on a plane. I had to go into the bathroom because I was audibly sobbing. Like, I was just like, ah. Yeah, man.
What turns you on?
Debate.
Candy kittens. Intelligence.
What turns you on? Jordan?
Curiosity.
Good one. What turns you off?
Eating with your mouth open.
Last one, because we had a real wholesome episode and I loved it, man. What do you like most about yourself?
The fact that I'm a good dad.
Yeah.
Jen?
I'm a right foot when I'm playing footy.
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Come on. Come on. Dig deep.
I'm like very encouraging.
You found that hard to say.
No, but I like it. I get a real joy out of like.
You are encouraging.
Go on.
You're a hype man in the best way.
Yeah.
I love that. Guys, I want to say a big thank you for being so open today. I know that's difficult sometimes. I really appreciate it. You have the best energy. Your music is amazing. And thank the world that Rizzle Kicks is back. You guys are
Come
legends.
on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Big up.
so much.
Thank you.